Welcome back to the Bench Brilliance podcast. My name is Kyle. Today, we're going to be going ahead and looking at the crazy day that was NFL free agency. Now, a lot happened today. A lot of you probably have opinions on what your favorite teams did. I got opinions on what my favorite team did today. And we'll just go ahead, we'll review everything together. And then, feel free to let me know what you guys think there in the comments down below. We'll go ahead and kind of keep this updated here along the way as free agency continues. Still a lot of good players out there, a lot of things left to settle out there. So we'll go ahead and kind of continue the rest of the way and see exactly what happens, for the rest of free agency here. And then, planning on kind of in the next couple episodes doing, kind of a check-in from where our favorite teams are in free agency at this point and kind of determining, what maybe the best steps are for the draft and kind of preparing for some possible mock drafts there, thinking about going kind of division by division, and breaking that down there, as we go along here and get further along there with um, the off season. So we'll go ahead. We'll start here today with Arizona. Just kind of going through the list here. We just have CBS free agency tracker kind of pulled up here, and we'll just go through and kind of react to every free agency signing that happened. We'll touch on the big ones. We won't necessarily touch on all the smaller signings there for time purposes. So we'll go ahead and we'll kick right into Arizona here. I see here for the Arizona Cardinals, right? I think the Suamolo signing at offensive guard for them is a massive signing, right? No matter what, Arizona needs to figure out the quarterback position. Now, you're going to have Jacoby Brissett in there to compete, with Gardner Minshew. And right now, you have Braves quarterback central, right? I mean, you have probably the two best Braves quarterbacks that are out there right now. And so we'll go ahead and we'll continue to see kind of what shakes up there at quarterback for them. They still would not surprise me if somehow they got back in the first round and picked up Ty Simpson. It wouldn't surprise me, obviously, and I think most people, if second or third round they're going after a Garrett Nussmeier or someone like that to kind of compete in there, get some young guys in there also to compete along with those two veterans, right? I think the Tyler Algier signing is a really good signing as well. Interesting because you just signed back James Conner, and Algier isn't necessarily much different than James Conner, in my opinion. You're looking at two bigger backs, right? Conner is probably more of a receiving threat. Algier is really, he's your goal line back, and I think I don't know, I'm fascinated that Atlanta let Algier go, mainly because you just really felt like he was a guy that they were going to keep there long term. He worked great last year with Bijan and, kind of being as, a lightning and thunder type package, right? So very interesting to me. I think the Tyler Algier signing wasn't necessarily a need, but wasn't a bad thing either, right? I think as you go down the list here, Kendrick Bourne, I think just a very underrated receiver. I like Kendrick Bourne. I think he did some really good things there at the end of the year once he was with the San Francisco 49ers. And I think he offered some really good things there, for them. I think Kendrick Bourne is a, really solid receiver three in a room. And I think he's somebody that you can bring in there with Marvin Harrison and Michael Wilson, some of their other guys there that they have, and Zay Dirch, all that type of stuff, and be somebody that can kind of help lead that room, but also a guy that you can play him and know exactly what you're getting out of him. Gardner Minshew is the best signing of all the free agency so far. I think Gardner Minshew, right? We all know what he is. I mean, he's a backup. He's really fun. You'll get some really fun spot minutes out of Gardner, and yeah, I think right. I think you have a good quarterback room in there for someone to learn from. Go get someone young. I don't understand why they didn't make more of a push for Malik Willis today. It wouldn't surprise me if they went after a Will Levis. But you need to get somebody in there to compete with those older veterans in there because you have the veterans right now to teach young guys. So I think Arizona overall, right, probably a really good signing there at offensive guard. I think the rest of it was kind of overwhelming because you are a team that you're not super strapped for cash outside of the Kyler Murray, contract. It's not something where you shouldn't have been able to make bigger moves. Um, Going ahead and kind of continuing the Atlanta Falcons there, right? I know the big name that's going to stick out to everybody is bringing in Tua. And I don't know. I mean, like, okay, so you're getting Tua for $1.3 million a year. That's whether you hate him or love him. That's a like you're getting a good a good player there for a really good contract. Now, does Tua have anything left? That's the problem, right? The only reason Miami got rid of Tua was because of the fact that there's no faith in him to actually be able to do this for any type of prolonged future. What you saw this year in Miami was such a beaten down quarterback and somebody whose body is just giving up on him. I mean, like his arm has always been weak, but even the biggest Tua haters in the world, go watch 2023, go watch 2022, go watch even when he came into the league, right? When he was recovering from the injury. His arm this year, I mean, he couldn't even throw the ball away to the sideline without getting picked off. It was terrible. And the thing for Falcons fans to maybe be optimistic about is a chip on his shoulder. I'm not gonna say a guy didn't work hard. He was in the NFL. Every single one of them works hard. I don't think there was the same level of intensity for Tua in this offseason, just being a Dolphins fan following Tua's offseason so much. I think you're going to see a guy that's probably more motivated. I think you're going to see a guy that's playing in a dome, playing only in warm weather for at least, what is that, 6 games a year, and then playing in a dome for at least, half of his games a year. I think you're going to see, a better version of Tua than you at least you got last year. I don't know that you're going to see 2023 ever again. I don't know that you're going to see 2022. But I do think you're going to get a guy that's, at least a much better version of himself than he was this year. And I think it's a good signing, right? I think for Atlanta, you need somebody in there to compete with Penix. You need to get rid of Kirk Cousins. There's no future there. And I don't know that there's a future with Tua, but there's more of a future with Tua than Kirk Cousins at this point in their careers. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, right, you got him for 1 year, 1.3 million. You'll take it. Penix isn't going to start the season anyway, so you'll go in there, you'll let Tua start, and then you'll see what happens. If he balls out, cool, keep playing him. You have the weapons. I mean, that's the thing with Tua, right? If you give him weapons, he's always been decent. You're going to have all the weapons. You have a great running game. At the end of the day, hand the ball off to Bijan Robinson, and then you shouldn't be losing that many games. You have, an absolute beast back there. So I think outside of that, right, Austin Hooper's a good signing back. He's a really solid tight end. He's Austin Hooper. He does exactly what Austin Hooper does. He's been around the league forever now. And you know exactly what you're getting from. Jahan Dotson's an interesting one. I was really high on Jahan. I actually, funny story, I went to the same high school same high school area that Jahan Dotson went to back when I lived up in Pennsylvania. So, I think with Jahan, you're going to get a player there that is he's able to produce. Now, there was some good things in Philadelphia. There was good things at times with the Washington Commanders too, right? I think it did really decent rookie year. And then there was some disappointment. And I think for Jahan, you just need to see consistency. And can we get that consistency on a day in, day out basis in every single game? Well, let's see. Because if not, he's probably his career is not going to be much more than a Kendrick Bourne, where it's, hey man, you're a really good third or fourth receiver. You'll be a veteran receiver in some rooms and help some young guys. If Jahan can be consistent, I think, on a day in, day out basis, you can be a really good slot receiver. And I think you can also trust him as a guy to play, minutes there as a wide receiver 3. Now we need to see the consistency more often. I think kind of continuing on there, Zacchaeus, I think, at wide receiver, I think it's a really good signing. He's a really fun player. Atlanta fans know him. They know what they're getting. He was there before. I did not realize how much he's been around the league, right? Atlanta, he was with Chicago. He was with the Commanders. I had no real recollection of that. I honestly, showing how, I guess, little ball knowledge I have, I only really remember him with the Commanders in Chicago. So interesting to, see him back there in Atlanta. I do like him. I think he's a really fun player. He's a really, gadget type player. It makes a lot of people miss with the ball in his hands. You can also use him in a lot of ways. They use him a lot with Washington out of the backfield, almost like kind of a Deebo Samuel role. Now, he's not as physical, in my opinion, as Deebo, but he's a guy that, has the ability to make things happen with the ball in his hands. I think the Kyle Pitts franchise tag, I don't know. I would like to see Kyle Pitts leave Atlanta. I think it'll be cool to see him now with a new coach and maybe a new offense, but we thought he had a new coach and a new offense before, and that didn't do anything. So I want to see Kyle Pitts be the player that we all think he can be and be the guy that, we all keep drafting in fantasy every single year to hope we see. We'll see. I think he might benefit from a guy like Tua playing. Tua likes to throw the ball to his tight ends. Tua, obviously, we know he likes throwing the ball short. Throwing the ball short, tight ends are usually your best friend. So I'm interested to see what Kyle Pitts, can do this season with a quarterback there with, maybe more. I don't even want to say consistent quarterback play because of how much we've seen Tua not look the part there the last couple of years, but quarterback play that could be better. And I will leave it at that. Now we'll go ahead and see what happens with Kyle Pitts there down the line. As far as Baltimore, I really like the Max Crosby trade, obviously, right? For a lot of reasons. Now, I think the John Simpson signing is good too. You got a good guard. He's, at the bare minimum, he's depth guard. Bringing back Tyler Huntley makes sense. Tyler Huntley he's Baltimore Ravens. He's only good with Baltimore, so just keep him there. Just keep, and when he's gone elsewhere, it hasn't been the same player. Keep him in Baltimore. He's a great backup if Lamar gets hurt. You know exactly what you're getting. You don't have to change the offense for him either, which is, probably the most important part there. Going to Buffalo, the DJ Moore trade. I don't understand giving up that much for DJ Moore. Now, maybe I'm missing something and I'll be wrong. I do like DJ Moore. I think Bears fans will tell you that, they're probably more disappointed with him at times than, happy. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. Bills are my least favorite team in the league. That's just Dolphins rivalry, Dolphins hatred for me. So everything they do, I always, have to look down upon. But I don't know. I don't love it so far. The DJ Moore one, yeah, okay. I mean, you're gonna get better than you were. So he definitely makes your receiver room better. The D Alford signing, I do not understand. Getting rid of Taron Johnson and bringing in D Alford, I don't understand on earth how you make that move and make that make sense. Now, nothing Buffalo has done this offseason, in my opinion, has made sense when it's come to keeping your GM and getting rid of your coach and then throwing all the blame on your coach for the last couple of years when your coach isn't the one that drafts all the players. Your GM should be doing that, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I don't know. D Alford, I'm not a fan of. I've never, I don't know. I've seen the guy end up on more on other people's highlight reels more than I see his own highlight reels. That's usually a telltale sign that as a corner, there's not a ton of great things happening. So I'm not a huge fan there. I do like bringing back Connor McGovern. I think Connor McGovern's a very, very good center. I think he's one of the better centers in the league. And I think, for all those reasons there, that's, great. I always love keeping together the centers and the quarterbacks, right? I think that's, a very important thing. I think, Peyton Manning, we would tell you, right? The time he had Jeff Saturday in there was very important, right? And I think you want to keep the center quarterback relationship there. So to me, bringing back Connor McGovern, I think it's a great signing. Now, this one is fascinating. And I was working today, so I'm watching the TV, come across the bottom there. And Jalen Phillips, 4 years, 120 million. For everybody who's a Dolphins fan who was freaking out when you traded away Jalen Phillips for a third-round pick. Dude, that was an absolute steal because you wouldn't have gotten anything for Jalen Phillips. And if you would have, still done the moves that you did today, you would not have been able to sign him. I really like Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips was an awesome guy in the locker room here in Miami. He was awesome in the community. He's a great guy in the locker room. I do not think he's worth 4 years, 120. And I understand the guarantees there, right? And I don't think his guarantees have been completely released. And I think I saw that it was 80, so it's about 20 million a year. That's just crazy to me for Jalen Phillips. I know he looked really good at the end of the year last year with Philly. But let's also understand he's on Philadelphia's defensive line, where you have Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. I mean, you have more edge rushers and more defensive line talent than you know what to do with. It's easy to look good when you're surrounded by great. It's also easy to look great when you're surrounded by excellent. So I think I'm somebody that remembers the Jalen Phillips with the Miami Dolphins, where he was constantly missing sacks, constantly over pursuing angles, not staying disciplined to his rush lanes. That player to me just does not scream 4 years, 120 million, even if it is 80 million guaranteed. I think he's more of around a $15 million a year player, maybe even potentially a little bit less if you feel the way that I do necessarily about him. I don't know. It's an overpay. It's an overpay for me. I'm not really a huge fan of it. He is he's a good player, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the move personally. Now, Kenny Pickett, okay, you had Andy Dalton as your backup before. It's about the same to me at this point in their careers. So, yeah, it's a move. You made a move. We'll see what goes on from there. But Bryce Young just starting quarterback, so I don't know. I'm not really going to touch too much on that. Chicago Bears, Kobe Bryant is somebody that I've liked for a very long time. I've wanted to see him get more playing time the whole time he was with Seattle, and I'm glad I think he's going to get that in Chicago. I think he's going to get the opportunity to compete for starting, minutes, starting, or starting role there. And I'm very excited for that. And I think Kobe Bryant is a guy that I've always been a fan of. I do like the fact that he wears it. He wears that, with the name obviously being compared. I like that he wears number 8. And that's a guy that just has confidence. And you need a rational confidence as safety and corner, right? You do. And I don't know. You turn on the film, Kobe Bryant's a guy that makes a lot of, I shouldn't say makes a lot of plays. Every time I see him play when he's gotten the opportunity to play, I've always walked away like, hey, I think there's more there. I think he can be a decent player in the NFL. And so I'm excited for him. Devin Bush, solid linebacker. I'm surprised I didn't retain Tremaine Edmonds. I feel like he's just a really good player. I feel like he's brought a lot of really good things to that defense. I feel like Tremaine Edmonds would have been a good player to bring back. So I'm interested to see that they left or let him leave. And then Neville Gallimore. I remember when Neville Gallimore was really hyped up a few years ago when he was with Dallas, and I didn't really understand it then. And I mean, he had a good season, but yeah, the 2 years, 12 million, that's humbling, I think, for a guy that, I think a lot of people really liked a few years ago and had a lot of really high things to say of a few years ago. So yeah, I mean, it's a good signing as well. The trade for Garrett Bradbury, though, is massive. You needed more offensive line help, and you got more offensive line help. That's a fantastic signing there of Garrett Bradbury, making sure that he was staying there. I think Garrett Bradbury is just a very, very clean center. And he's, guy that can, I think he has, potential to swing guard, if you need to. He's more of a starting center, but he plays a lot. He's played guard minutes too. He's a guy that I just really like. And I think he just keep that offensive line helping out your quarterback. You saw what your quarterback can do last season at times. Keep that going. Bengals had two really good signings. I like Brian Cook and I like Boye Mafe. Boye Mafe is an absolute stud. 3 years, 60 million, 20 million a year. I think that makes more sense to me than Jalen Phillips personally. And I know everyone's going to say, well, Jalen Phillips had a better year last year once he got traded. I understand that. I also understand where he was playing compared to where Boye Mafe was playing. Jalen Phillips was on the best defensive line in football, in my opinion. I think they've had the best defensive line in football for multiple years now. You can argue the Rams, but there's a difference. Brian Cook, very big fan of his as well. I think you got a really good safety. I think that's something they've needed ever since they got older there in the past and haven't had some guys kind of lead the team there. So I think Brian Cook's a guy that definitely is going to help them there long term. Outside of that, I'm surprised Cincinnati. Okay, I'm proud of Cincinnati because Cincinnati hasn't done anything offensively. But if you know the Cincinnati Bengals, you know that they don't care about defense, and all they've ever cared about was the offensive side of the ball. Now, I think it's a great thing that they're showing, love to the defensive side of the ball. I think that's important. I think they need it because I think that's one of the biggest problems there. But they also still need to get better when it comes to the offensive line. And you need to see that from them. You need to see what's going on there, why are you not protecting Joe Burrow? This is a real problem. And I hate to touch on it because I'm somebody that I'm not a huge fan of Joe Burrow like everybody else is. And I know everybody is, Joe Burrow is he's everybody loves him. Everybody loves him. Everybody's got all the things to say. He's a top 5 quarterback to everybody. And I understand when he plays, he looks very good. He looked very good when he came back last year. I totally get it. I don't know. I'm not. I worry so much about him. He's always hurt. When you watch him play, like I can't help the fact that he does turn the ball over and he does hold on to the ball too long. And he still makes some of the same mistakes that we saw even coming out of college. And as good of a prospect as he was, and as good as that season was there at LSU, there's still some of those same problems. Now, I'm not going to get too much into this because this isn't about Joe Burrow, but I don't know. I would have liked to see them help out the offensive line more. I would also like to see them help out their running game more. I understand, they had a good running game last year with Chase Brown. I understand he looked pretty good at times. I still would like to see them have a more consistent running game. I still would like to see them be better on the offensive line. I will say, again, the Brian Cook signing, fantastic signing. It's the first time I think you're going to feel good in that secondary and the safety with the player back there since you've had Jesse Bates. And I think that's massive. Ever since they lost Jesse Bates, you've seen that defense take more and more of a step down. Brian Cook's a very good signing. Now, Cleveland Browns, Zion Johnson, good signing. You needed help on the offensive line. Your offensive line was actually not one of the worst things on your team last year, which for the Browns, that's a good thing. But Zion Johnson to me is a very clean prospect. I think you know exactly what you're getting from him. He's a guy who's not great, he's not elite, but he's a very good guard. And I think you're gonna get that from him. He also to me still has the versatility to play center if you needed one in a pitch. So I like Zion Johnson. I like the signing there. I think that's a very good signing there for the Cleveland Browns there. The Dallas Cowboys, listen, I'm not gonna lie. I've been actually liking what they've done so far. Okay. This guy, Brandon Aubrey, you keep him. That guy's a weapon. All right. I will never say that about a kicker, but this guy and the guy from Jacksonville, Cam Little, you just go ahead and keep those guys. Those guys make game-changing plays all the time. I think it's a great decision to keep him there and pay him. George Pickens, franchise tag. I agree. Listen, you like what you saw from George Pickens last year, but you don't trust George Pickens, and you shouldn't trust George Pickens. We haven't seen him to be a trustworthy guy. We also haven't seen that he's a guy that would necessarily play like a good guy on the franchise tag. So I'm interested to see exactly what transpires there. Interested to see how the franchise tag ends up going for him. Now, with this trade, Rashawn Gary, I don't understand why people were not a fan of this. I saw people saying, don't worry, we have Max Crosby at home, all that type of stuff. And I get that. Rashawn Gary is a very, very good defensive lineman. He's a very good edge player. You can move him around the defensive line. You can stand him up like people stand up Max Crosby and move him around. And I think Rashawn Gary is going to help your offensive line or defensive line. I really do. And I also think Jalen Thompson's a good signing at 3 years, $33 million. I think he's a good safety. I think you're going to get good play from Jalen Thompson. I really like what Dallas has done so far. And none of us ever like to say anything good about the Dallas Cowboys, but I like what they've done. They haven't done the That's So Cowboys move yet. And so for that reason, so far so good for the Dallas Cowboys when we get to the first couple days or first couple hours here of free agency. Denver, you kept your own, and I understand it. You don't need to do anything crazy. You're a good team. Bo Nix got hurt. You probably would have been in the Super Bowl last year, in my opinion, if you had your quarterback. I just feel that way. I think for them at this point right now, just keep doing what you're doing. Don't stress it. Don't front it. Just keep doing what you're doing there. And yeah, just build your own. Keep drafting well. You have a fantastic coach. You have a great young roster. I want to see them get more wide receiver help, and I think they can in the draft because I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities at receiver in this draft. But outside of that, I mean, yeah, you have a fantastic defense. You have a really good offense that I think can get even better. Keep doing what you're doing if you're Denver. I don't blame you for not making any flashy moves today. Detroit, listen, Larry Bourne, he's good in the pinch. He's good if you need, a swing guy there to come in for occasional minutes. But Bears fans and Dolphins fans will tell you the same. I could go without ever seeing Larry Bourne again. Now, I do like Cade Mays. I think he's a good, depth there as well. I cannot believe they let go of Taylor Decker. That is crazy to me. Taylor Decker is just a Detroit Lion through and through. So interesting to see that there. But yeah, for Detroit, it's the same thing as Denver, right? You have a great team. Keep drafting. Keep doing what you do. You've drafted so well. You've picked your spots with free agents. Just keep doing the same thing. And I think they're doing that. Green Bay, Zaire Franklin, absolutely love this. Absolutely love this. You got rid of a guy in Quay Walker who is young, makes some dumb mistakes at times, looked really good this season. How much of that was Jeff Hafley? How much of that was him really just developing? We'll see. Now, I like Zaire Franklin. I think you're getting an absolute great player. I think you're getting a linebacker that's just steady and you don't have to worry about. Also, you retain two of your own, which is what the Green Bay Packers do. And Sean Ryan and Darian Kinnard. Darian Kinnard, good backup piece. Sean Ryan, good offensive tackle. So, like what they've done so far. Green Bay, kind of the same thing. You just keep doing what you're doing. You're a good team. You had every reason to, go deeper in the playoffs than you did. And I think you will continue to go deep in the playoffs because I'm a fan of Matt LaFleur. I really like Gunter. So, yeah, I think Green Bay is on the right track there as well. Houston made some really good signings. I like Reed Blankenship. I am a fan of Reed Blankenship. I think he's an underrated player. I think we saw, him get some love a couple years ago, but I think you can still continue to appreciate what he's done so far. I also like the fact that they retained their own. Dalton Schultz, great player. Trent Brown looked pretty good for them last year. Naquan Jones was pretty good for them this year. Sheldon Rankins, pretty good for them this year. Ed Ingram, really good for them last year. Danielle Hunter, absolute stud. So I like what the Houston Texans have done so far. I like bringing back your own. You just need consistency from CJ Stroud. If you get consistency from CJ Stroud and to get better at receiver outside of Nico Collins and the young guys, you need the young guys to keep developing. You had two really, really good young receivers last year, but you need to see more. Okay. And I think you will. I think Jalen Noel is going to take more of a step. I think Polk will take more of a step as well. So interested to see the future there for the Houston Texans, but I do like the move so far today. Now, getting to Indianapolis. This and no one thinks Indianapolis makes good decisions anymore outside of bringing Daniel Jones in. That worked. But outside of that, Alec Pierce, 4 years, 116 million is absolutely absurd. I like Alec Pierce. I think Alec Pierce is a good player. I don't even think his own teammates would tell you 4 years, 116 million is what you'd expect. Maybe the market was there. Maybe they knew something we don't. Maybe he was getting 116 million from every team out there 4 years. Maybe that's what it was. I'd be interested to see that. But yeah, I don't know. Has the production even really been there for Alec Pierce over his career? I think that's fascinating. Has Alec Pierce's production even really been there, through his career so far? I don't know. I feel like he was always this kind of a deep threat guy, and you'd see what kind of you got there. So maybe I just don't know ball. Okay. I mean, in 3 seasons, he's had almost 3,000 yards. So 1,000 yards a season, 17 touchdowns. You break that up. So 5 touchdowns a year. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I just don't know ball. Maybe I didn't appreciate Alec Pierce enough. Maybe that's the issue. So we'll go ahead and we'll say Alec Pierce. Maybe, maybe I'm underrating here. Arden Key, I do like Arden Key. I think Arden Key is a good player. I think he's a good rotational, defensive end. I don't think you can ever have enough defensive ends. So to me, any defensive end you sign, great signing. As long as you don't give them 4 years, 120 million, if I don't think it deserves it. But that's okay. Again, I'm not doing shade at him. I like Jalen Phillips, but that's just crazy. Anyways, but Arden Key, 2 years, up to 20 million, 11 million guaranteed. I think that's a good contract. Bailey Gruppy, I think obviously very good kicker from last year, so I'm not surprised. Jacksonville, not surprised we haven't done much. I think you like your team. I think you just want to continue to grow and continue to get better with that team. And I think you should. I think you have every reason to believe in the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you're Liam Cohen and the GM there, I think you absolutely believe in the roster that you're building, and you want to see obviously what Travis Hunter can do, because you guys did all of that last year without the guy that is deemed your franchise player as soon as he got drafted. So we'll see what happens with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I will say so far I have nothing to say about it because of the season you had last year. Kansas City, really fascinated by Travis Kelce coming back. I was completely positive he was not coming back. So interesting to see. I'm interested to see the player you get next year, because I don't know how much is left in the tank. You're getting a guy that, he's such a competitor that you expect him to want to come back and go out on a higher note. Kenny Walker, great signing. Super Bowl MVP, played fantastic last year. I think he's a really good back there to pair with Pacheco. So yeah, like the signings there for the Chiefs. I think you're gonna I think it makes you better, but I still think you need more defensively. Trent McDuffie being gone is fascinating to me. I think you need more on the offensive line. I think you need more from receiver. There's still just a lot of holes. I don't know that they can fill it in free agency because they don't have a ton of money. But I'm interested to see kind of where they go from here. Now, Las Vegas Raiders, you want to talk about you got all the chips in the entire casino and you just throw them all to the middle and go all in. I mean, this is similar to what the Patriots did last year, right? You're like, all right, we're gonna have a really good young quarterback, and that's what they think they're gonna have in Mendoza, and we're going all in. Tyler Linderbaum, great signing. Kwity Paye, great signing for a young defensive end. I'm not going to say he's necessarily deserving of that money. We didn't see it in Indianapolis, but there's a lot to like with Kwity Paye. There's a lot. You go back to when he got drafted. He's still a young player. So I think you can be optimistic about it. Quay Walker, good player. Was last year a fluke. Was last year Jeff Hafley. He was really good last year. He was really disciplined last year. He played well. We want to see that consistency. Nakobe Dean, same thing, really good player. Jalen Naylor, really like Jalen Naylor. Eric Stokes, really good corner. But this is the luxury of being with the Las Vegas Raiders are. You have so much money, you have the ability to do a lot of things. So to me, for the Las Vegas Raiders, right, you just hope this works out. Because if not, you end up like being like these other cash strapped teams that, went all in with the young quarterback, and then by the time they had to pay the quarterback, all the other bills came due. And um, I hope it works because their fans deserve it, right? It's a similar thing that I feel with, a lot of teams out there that have had, kind of sustained failure, I guess. But you want to see this work out for them and their fans. So I'm hoping it works out there in Las Vegas. I still have my reservations on Mendoza as a franchise face of the franchise generational quarterback, but we'll see. Only time will tell. And I think you have all the, ability there to get the most out of Mendoza with the head coach. So, and obviously Tom Brady in the front office. So we'll go ahead and we'll see what happens there. But so far, I like the signings. I like that you went after both offense and defense. I think that's important. Want to see more here. Want to see more at receiver. We'll go ahead and continue to see what happens there as this kind of continues as well through the draft. Um, the Chargers, disappointing. You have so much money. You have I don't do people know how much money the Chargers have? Like the Chargers have so much money this offseason. For a team that's paid their quarterback already, they have so much money. Your best signing was a center who valuable. You need to get better on the offensive line for Justin Herbert, but you let Zion Johnson go. Then you signed a tight end today and you signed Alec Ingold. That just doesn't move me. And you brought back Khalil Mack for 1 year, 18 million. Okay, sure. I'm probably moving past Khalil Mack at this point in his career, but that's maybe just me. But you need more. Like, I don't know. You have a lot of money. I was expecting them to become spenders and really go all in. Because you probably have McDaniel there for a year to 2 years before I think he gets another look at head coaching. So I expected you to go all in. And this today, it's not what I expected. But maybe that's just me. Los Angeles Rams, Trent McDuffie, fantastic signing. Jalen Watson, fantastic signing. I think for the Rams, right, you need to get better at corner. I think you did. You got significantly better at corner. This is a team that had Emmanuel Forbes playing, starting minutes for them last year. Well, you're not going to have that anymore because you have two really good corners. You basically just said, hey, let's bring the Chiefs corners in here. And I like it. Cam Curl, great re-signing. I still like you pair him with Cam Kitchens, and that's, really good safety duo back there. Tyler Higbee, really big fan of his, just the master of consistency. Not going to touch on a long snapper, but hey, love long snapping. Cardona actually played for the Dolphins last year. He was a good player. There was nothing wrong with the long snap, so we'll give a little bit of love there. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I love this team, but they're so frustrating, man. I love the Greg Dulcich signing. I think he did a lot of really good things at the end of last year for us, and he was a guy I wanted to see back in the building. Malik Willis, we'll see. I like Malik. I really liked Malik coming out of college. I was a big fan of his. I was shocked he got drafted as low as he did, as low as he did. I really thought he was going to get drafted higher. I really thought I was a part of the Steelers crowd. I thought he was going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, lock it in, done deal. This is a good contract for a guy like Malik Willis. The third year has no money attached to it. You can get out of it completely on the third year. You have no money attached to this year. It's really all in the second year when you do have a lot of money in 2027. Yeah, I like Malik. I think this is going to be a really awesome opportunity for Malik Willis to come in here and prove that he's a franchise quarterback. He's going to have every reason to do it the next 2 years. To me, this is disheartening in some ways because I like drafting young quarterbacks. I do. I like bringing in competition. I was a guy that was like hoping they'd bring in Drew Aller or hoping they'd bring in a Nussmeier or a Klubnik or any of those kind of middle of the pack quarterbacks there. Cole Payton, right? Who you wanted to see more from. I like Malik. It scares me with Malik that he's been injured in the few starts he's gotten, especially as a guy that runs. But I also don't blame any team or the Dolphins for going after a guy that can run like a cheetah and has an absolute cannon of an arm. So it makes sense to me. I totally understand it. And we'll see. I'm prepared to be let down again. And I like Malik. So hopefully that doesn't happen, right? Hopefully Malik Willis can be a really good quarterback here in the future for the Dolphins, and that'd be awesome if we got him for 3 years, 45 million guaranteed, and he does turn out to be really good because, well, it'd be exciting. I do think if you're a Dolphins fan, it is some reason to be optimistic. It is going completely opposite of what you had in Tua, other than like the stature, right? He's 6'1", 225, kind of similar to Tua's build, but built very different, right? And much sturdier player, much just much, I don't know, much more of a football player. But he is fast. You didn't have that. He's going to take off with his legs. You didn't have that. He has a cannon of an arm. You didn't have that. So I think if you're a Dolphins fan, you can be optimistic that at least you're not going to watch the same style of offense and the same style of quarterback play. And I'm interested to see what he does with Bobby Slowick. Honestly, I'm a guy that hasn't given up on Bobby Slowick at offensive coordinator, and I want to see what Bobby Slowick can do again with running the whole show. So interesting to see what he can do with a guy like Malik, who is so dynamic. Now, continuing on here, Minnesota. Yeah, you go to Brian Flores and you say, "Hey, who do you want back?" And you just bring back everybody that he wants back on defense because that's what the guy does. He drafts or he develops defensive players at an elite level. They need to figure out quarterback. And I'm shocked they didn't go after two or more in some ways because I think, it wouldn't have been the worst thing. But I also understand, don't pair him back up with Brian Flores, even if they were on the opposite side of the ball with each other. I totally get that. Interesting to see if they go after Kyler. That'd be fascinating. I think Kyler Murray and a Kevin O'Connell offense would be really interesting to watch and really cool to watch. So I'd be interested there to see kind of what continues there for them. So we'll kind of leave that there. And then New England, they did exactly what you expect them to do. They brought back guys. They spent all the money last year. Bring back your guys. I do like the Reggie Gilliam signing. I think he's a really good fullback. I think he brings, I still think the fullback brings things to your offense. So like that there. I like the Draymond Jones, very good edge player. So yeah, good signings there for the Patriots, and that's kind of what you expect, right? I mean, I think anytime you have Mike Vrabel in the building and he's involved in the decision making, you're gonna make good decisions. I'm a massive Vrabel fan. New Orleans, Travis Etienne's a fun one. I think you get Travis Etienne in a dome. Fast players usually look even faster in the dome. Elusive players look even more elusive in a dome. So interesting to see there with Travis Etienne. I think you're gonna, you have a lot there to like with Tyler Shuck and what that offense can be. And I think Noah Fant's a really good tight end to bring in there as kind of a stopgap. And I really like David Edwards at guard. I think he's a really good guard, and you need to protect your rookie quarterback there as much as you can. Isaiah Likely, 3 years, 40 million, a lot of money, but you do look at it and you go, hey, he was probably the best tight end for the Ravens last season, and that's being honest, right? I mean, Mark Andrews has kind of taken a step back. I think Isaiah Likely played a lot of really good ball. Yeah, I like that signing. I like Tremaine Edmonds. I'm a big Tremaine Edmonds fan. He's never going to be a good pass, coverage guy, but what he is he's stout in the run game, and you can also blitz him a lot, in pass rush situations from that off ball linebacker spot. And yeah, I think you get a really solid player there. I'm shocked they didn't bring back Wan'Dale, but also the money that Wan'Dale Robinson got, I totally get not bringing him back. I like Gunner. I think Gunner's a good person to bring back there. He brings a lot to you. I also think bringing back the tackle here was a really big thing. Keep good offensive linemen. If you find decent offensive linemen, keep decent offensive linemen, and then don't overpay them. And they did not overpay. Getting him back for less than $10 million a year guaranteed, absolute gem of a signing. So great jobs there to the Giants. And you expect them to start doing better things like this, especially with Harbaugh in the building now. New York. The Minkah trade's fascinating. You brought all the money in from Miami because you changed the contract. So getting him for a seventh is obviously a steal. Paying the salary for the next 3 years is interesting. I mean, I'm fascinated to see what Minkah looks like 3 years from now because I already think he's kind of lost somewhat of a step. Demario Davis is a decent signing there. You know exactly what you're getting from him. That kind of guy as well. And Joseph Asai, I think, is a really good signing there as well. I think he's a really good edge player. So far, nothing bad there for the Jets, in my opinion. I don't think you've overspent, which is really the biggest thing for the Jets. It's just not overspending on players. The Minkah contract, I think, is an interesting one, but we'll see more, I think. Breece Hall getting back on a franchise tag. I like Breece Hall still. I'm still a big fan. Um, yeah. Philly, understand this. You brought back Jordan Davis. You paid. You cannot keep paying all these guys all the time. This is going to be, I think, an offseason where they're a little more quiet. And I think that's understandable. I think they have a lot to figure out when it comes to just the locker room. And I don't think bringing more guys in the locker room is a way to figure that out. They need, yeah, I don't know. They need leaders to emerge in that locker room. I think guys like Cooper DeJean and other guys that they have there can do that. So interested to see what next season looks like for the Eagles. But I don't blame them for not making a bunch of signings today. You didn't need to. Pittsburgh, Michael Pittman. I do like the trade. I'm a Pittman fan. I just feel like I would like to see more from Pittman in his career so far because I think he has the ability to be wide receiver one, and I haven't seen enough like consistency where you're consistently showing you that he's a wide receiver one. So I just hope to see more consistency from him, and maybe a change of scenery helps with that too, and maybe more consistent quarterback play if Rodgers returns. Jamel Dean, I'm not a fan of. I'm not a Jamel Dean fan. I think if you ask Bucks fans, he came back last year and was pretty disappointing in a lot of ways. So just I don't know, not fascinated by the Jamel Dean signing. Rico Dowdle had a really good half a season there for Carolina. We'll see what the terms come out to be. He's a running back, so I'm not expecting massive money, but I don't love either of these signings, to be quite honest with you. San Fran, Mike Evans. I just hate that he left the Bucks, to be honest with you. But I understand the Mike Evans signing. San Fran needs consistency at wide receiver, and that's the epitome of Mike Evans. You just hope he stays healthy. He's kind of struggled with injuries the last 2 years, so you hope he stays healthy. But yeah, Mike Evans is solid as they come. So I'm not worried about that. But good swing tackle here, and then bringing back Pinheiro, who they needed kicker last year. Pinheiro filled in for him pretty well, so I totally understand bringing him back. Seattle, this is what you do. You're a great team. You retain your own. Super Bowl champs, just retain your own. Rashid Shaheed was massive for you last year. Great signing. Josh Jobe, really good player. So totally understand. Just bringing back your own here because that's what you do when you become really good, and it's why the Green Bay Packers have been good for so long. You sign your own players. You keep developing your own players, and you keep developing new guys that you draft every single year. And this is the way to do it. This is the way to build a culture. No one understands that better than John Schneider. Seattle will continue to be good as long as he stays a GM. I mean, he's fantastic. I think he's the best in the business at it. I think he doesn't get talked about enough like Howie Roseman does. John Schneider is absolutely the best in the business, I think. Tampa, I like both of these signings. Kenneth Gainwell is a really good player. He's just consistent. You know what you're getting from a guy like Gainwell. Alex Anzalone is a fantastic signing. I really like him for 2 years, $17 million. He made a ton of plays over his career with Detroit. He's made a lot of really good plays with New Orleans back when he was with them as well. I think he's just a good player you bring in there and you just trust him at linebacker. And I think for a team that needs another linebacker next to Lavonte David and has needed one next to Lavonte David, this is the solution to that. And I think that really helps. He also offers some ability in pass coverage, which you need next to Lavonte David. So I like this. Cade Otton, really like bringing him back as well. Really solid tight end. I love the fact he doesn't wear gloves. Old school guy. Absolute gem there. Cade Otton's a really good signing back there. Tennessee, this is what you do. And this is like with the same thing with the Raiders. This is what you do when you think you have a good quarterback and you need to get better. You bring a guy in like John Franklin Myers, who played with New York. He knows Robert Saleh, fantastic signing. Alontae Taylor, really good player. Cordell Flott, good player. Wan'Dale Robinson, really good wide receiver 2 to 3 to me. You're not paying him quite wide receiver one money. I still think it's a little rich for my blood, but Wan'Dale Robinson, I think is a good signing. Daniel Bellinger, I think is a fun signing. I really like him from New York as well. I think Austin Schlottman, I think is a good backup center there. Interested to see more. It is funny because you can see that Saleh brought some of his guys, and you can also see with the Bellinger and Wan'Dale Robinson picks or signings, that Daboll is bringing some of his guys in there too. So interesting to see there. Interesting to see what more of these guys look like they're going forward. And then finally, we can wrap up here with Washington. Now, with Washington, Odafe Oweh, he's a really good player. Really like the signing there at edge. I'm a bigger fan of this signing than I am of the Jaelan Phillips signing, because I think the money's better. I also think that Odafe Oweh has the ability to be a higher ceiling still in his career. I don't know where Jaelan Phillips' ceiling is left at this point in his career. So I like this signing more. I like Tim Settle at defensive tackle. He's a very solid defensive tackle. think he can play with his hand in the dirt there, and you can kind of clog up the middle there, very consistently. Amik Robertson, kind of same thing. Very good, cornerback signing there. I think if you look back at the film, he's a guy that makes a lot of plays, doesn't really get in too much trouble. And I think for 2 years, 9.3 million, he's a good cornerback 2, cornerback 3 there to compete. And then I think bringing back Laremy Tunsil there is, obviously a good thing. Bringing back Mariota and the leadership that he's brought to that, team has been a good thing as well. And I do like the Treylon Burks 1-year re-sign. Okay, he's not going to ever be what we expected him to be or we wanted him to be at one point in his career. But I do like Treylon Burks still as a receiver, and I'm fascinated to see more of him, in the later parts of his career. I really like what I've seen from Treylon Burks there, the last year that he was there. And I think I'm interested to see what else he can do. I think Andrew Wiley is a good signing back as well. So, and I don't think Treylon Burks is ever going to be what we expected at one point in his career, but I do think you're going to get a much better player than we've seen at times. And I think he had, some really good games last year. And one game in particular, a really good catch, that went very viral for him. So I want to see more from Treylon Burks, and I think consistency there can help. So interested to see kind of what continues on here as we continue. We'll keep it going there with the draft or free agency coverage, and then going into draft season. We'll stay up with the coverage as well. So, glad we were able to get this one out there. Sorry, for the time in between episodes here for us. Looking forward to the next one, and we should have another one up here later this week, and then going into the weekend, probably get another one up there as well. So we'll stay tuned. We'll keep doing more breakdowns of free agency signings as they happen, and we'll also get ready for the draft and kind of laying out some potential draft plans for each team and do a mock draft for each team as well. I think that'll be really fun. So yeah, thank you guys again for tuning in. Like and comment, please. That helps out a ton, and make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. You guys have a great rest of your day. Peace out.